Time now for a Wion special interview. After a fascinating couple of months, club football is on hold this week for the second international break of the season, and it's a welcome breather for some of Europe's heavyweight sides, especially Spanish giants Real Madrid and Barcelona, who have hit an extended slump in recent weeks. Over this past weekend, I had the pleasure of sitting down with French World Cup winner Robert Pires, who's here in India as an ambassador for La Liga, to have a freewheeling conversation about Spanish football, the Champions League, France's World Cup heroes, and one of his former clubs, Arsenal. Take a listen. We're into the third month of what is turning out to be a quite fascinating season of football, especially in Europe. And I'm very delighted to have a World Cup winner from France, Robert Pires, here with me, just to take stock of where we stand so far in this season. Robert, first of all, welcome, to India. You're a very frequent visitor here now. You're here with the Premier League as an ambassador for Arsenal. Now you're here representing La Liga as well, where you spent 4 seasons, of course, with Villarreal. 4 very successful seasons, one would say, for a club, of that size, particularly 07-08, where you finished second in the league behind Real Madrid. Fond memories from that campaign?
Yes, of course. I have great memories about this season with Villarreal. Unfortunately, we finished just behind Real Madrid. But for Villarreal, it was amazing a season because we finished just before Barcelona, Sevilla, Valencia. So for me, it was very important to play in Spain. Especially for La Liga. I spent a lot of times with Villarreal, and for me, it was important because I learned a lot with the Spanish football, especially with Manuel Pellegrini, because he was my manager. So it was a great experience with La Liga.
A lot of fans here, especially in the subcontinent, might perhaps be a little more familiar with the hierarchy and dynamics in English football. So I want to speak to you about what it is like, to be one of the smaller clubs in Spain, where that a Real Madrid or a Barcelona have won, most of the league titles, maybe an Atletico Madrid challenging in recent years. So how do these slightly smaller clubs, how do they set their goals? How do they go about trying to bridge the gap to the top 2 sides in the country?
But the objective, for example, if you play for Villarreal or our smaller team, because when we talk about La Liga, is always Real Madrid and Barcelona, but it's normal because it's the best great team in Spain and of course in the world. But the gap with it's always to try to fight or to beat Barcelona or Real Madrid. So that's why I think especially this season, I think is more, I don't know why, but I think the La Liga is more open. Because, for example, a small team like Leganés beat Barcelona 2 or 3 weeks ago. Yeah. So everything, sorry, but everything it's now it's possible, and the La Liga is more open because you say you have Atletico Madrid, always with Diego Simeone. But even teams
Sevilla
like Sevilla,
well.
they play
Valencia, of course, playing in the Champions League.
Exactly. Valencia, because they spend a lot of money, because they build a good team, because maybe they want to fight with Barcelona and Madrid. So La Liga this season is more attractive, and this is a good news for the fans.
Look at the kind of start that Barcelona and Real Madrid have had to this season. These are teams that very rarely lose in the league, but both of them have dropped a few points already this season. Do you think that these teams have hit their best, or is the best from them still to come this season?
But I think it's because some of the team or some of the players they find something in your body. It's because they can beat maybe Barcelona or Madrid. So that's why it's it's very open.
So you're saying it's not these teams playing poorly,
no,
it is the other teams playing much better than they have.
Because some of them, they play much better. And so that's why, because Barcelona and Madrid, they play on the same, always on the same level. But I think some of them, they want, or they try to reach, the same level. Of course, it's difficult, because Madrid or Barcelona, they have the best team or the best player in the world. But I think this is the difference. Some of them, they put more, the high level. So that's why, for example, I repeat, but some team like Leganés,
very well.
They're doing very well, and they can beat today Barcelona.
If we talk about the prospects of these same Spanish sides in Europe, the complexion tends to change. Real Madrid, Barcelona, even Atletico Madrid have done very well in the Champions League in recent years. Do you consider them favourites this year as well? Because there has been some talk of perhaps, teams like Manchester City, Liverpool, even Juventus being far closer to the Spanish sides this season.
Spanish football is number one. Even now, I think, because you say Madrid, they won the Champions League. Atletico Madrid, they won the Europa League. So it's more, I think the La Liga is more consistent if you compare with for example, with the Premier League, because the Spanish teams is more consistent when they play against other team in Europe. Of course, you have favorites like La Juve, Man City, Liverpool is inside, is very, very close. They reached the final last season. They lost against Real Madrid, but I think the Spanish team is more regular. Yes.
Would you stick your neck out and say that a Spanish team will win the Champions League this season?
Yes, I think. Yeah.
We're close to an international break as well. So I want to speak to you about the French team and their incredible run to the World Cup. What's baffled a lot of spectators, especially outside of France, is the amount of world-class players that are in and around the national team. It's not just the players that went to the World Cup. So many, quality players could not even make the squad. As a Frenchman, do you know why, so many players have become available at one time? Is it coincidence, a golden generation? Or is it the result of some, planning at the grassroots levels to try and get these players through?
I think it's not a coincidence. It's just because all the French players, they work hard, especially when they play for the team. And when they put the French shirt in his shoulder, of course, it's totally different. Mentally, it's different. And of course, the pressure is not the same. But we have a great team, great quality. Some of them, they have a lot of talent. So this mix in the team is very good. But if you want to drive this team, you need to do a good driver, And the good driver for me is Didier Deschamps, is the manager, because he knows, because he used to play a footballer.
Exactly.
Because 20 years ago, for example, he won the World Cup. But now he's manager, but he knows if you want to lift again the trophy. So he put rules on the team, discipline, education, because now, it's very difficult. Some players, young players, you need to manage the players, but you need to manage the ego.
Yes.
Sometimes it's very difficult. And Deschamps, he find a good balance between this. It's not easy, but he was a player, so he knows
how the player is thinking.
Exactly.
And that brings me to my next question, because you have played with him
yes.
in 1998, and there is a similar, aura around this French squad as well. There is a feeling that they could dominate major competitions for a few years, given how young the players are. Do you see parallels from this team to that team, that did so well in the late 90s and early 2000s?
You know, I don't like to compare the team in '98 and this team. I think it's totally different. The result is the same because we won. We lift the trophy, we lift the World Cup, but it's totally different. For me, the most important, especially when you play the World Cup or the Euro, especially when you defend your country or your flag, for me, it's the communication, the relation between the manager and the players. If the relation is good, you can make a success. If not, you can find some troubles inside the team. Like, for example, Spain, you know, it was difficult. So that's why I think for Spain, it was a bad moment to take this decision just before the World Cup.
Right.
But I think for France, we say in French, all the light, it was green. So we go straight, we reach the final, and we lift the trophy at the end.
You're, of course, an Arsenal invincible, very, very revered in London as well. So I'm curious to know how you see, you know, the Gunners in that post-Wenger era, what we've seen under Unai Emery so far. Quite a few wins under the belt for this team as well. And it's almost as if Arsenal has skipped, you know, the problems of a Manchester United in appointing a successor.
So, yeah, we are on the post-Arsene Wenger, but now the most important for Arsenal is to talk about the present. The present is Unai Emery. This is a new page for the club. Actually, he's doing well. He's on the very good row in the Premier League, in the Europa League. Of course, for him, it was difficult, especially the start, because he lost against Man City and Chelsea. But he's a Spanish manager, so he has a good character, good philosophy. And just for the fans, for the Arsenal fans, it's very important to be passionate with him. And I'm sure he make a success, and he can lift the trophy at the end of the season, sure.
Thank you so much for sitting down with me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.